Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the House Finance Committee to order. We have 3 bills to consider today, but I'd like to start by having our senior committee legislative assistant call the roll. Lori Smith.
Chairman Samuelson?
Here.
No. You got you. Sorry. Chairman Samuelson?
Here.
Cepeda Freites?
Here.
Deloso?
Vote by designation.
Fiedler? Frail? Gallagher? Kenyatta?
Vote by designation.
McNeil? Mursky? Rabb? Scott?
Vote by designation.
Wade? Smith Wade?
Vote by designation.
Waxman?
Here.
Webster? Chairman Griner?
Here.
Bernstein?
Vote by designation.
Brown? Fritz? Jones? Kephart? Kutz?
Vote by designation.
Mako?
Vote by designation.
McCurry?
Vote by designation.
Rader? And Rossi.
Thank you.
Representative Deloso just came in. I'm sorry, you supposed to say that.
Representative Deloso present. Thank you. So we have 3 items on the agenda for today's meeting. In numerical order, we have House Bill 1742, sponsored by Representative Cepeda Freitas and Representative Miller. I'd like a motion to bring up House Bill 1742. Moved by Representative Waxman, seconded by Representative Gallagher. And I'd like Shannon Snell, our research analyst, to give a summary of House Bill 1742.
Thank you. House Bill 1742 provides an annual cost of living adjustment to the poverty income amounts for both claimants and dependents for tax forgiveness eligibility income. And this is based on the percentage change in the consumer price index for all urban consumers for the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland area for the most recent 12-month period for which the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has released that data. And it specifies that the poverty income amounts cannot be decreased as a result of a negative percentage change in the CPIU.
Thank you. And I might note for the record the cost of living adjustment that's in the bill in chief, we also had in the tax code last October when that passed the House. There is an amendment today offered by Representative Cepeda Freitas. And do I have a motion to bring forward that amendment? Representative Webster, seconded by Representative Friel. I'd ask Shannon Snell to describe the Cepeda Freitas amendment.
This amendment increases the base amounts for the poverty income for claimants and that are both single filers and joint filers. The amounts in current law are $6,500 for single filers, and this would increase that to $10,000. And for joint filers, its current law provides $13,000, and this would increase it to $20,000. And it would also apply the cost of living adjustment to only the amounts for single and joint filers who are claimants and not the dependents.
Thank you. And we do have a summary from the Department of Revenue that's in your packets on the impact of that for current law and also the proposal. I'd like to offer the opportunity to Representative Cepeda Freitas to talk about her amendment.
Thank you to both chairmen for allowing me the opportunity and for bringing this bill forward. House Bill 1742 is a crucial piece of legislation aimed at helping our lowest income Pennsylvanians. Over the past 2 decades, inflation has increased the cost of living significantly, but our assistance for those in poverty has not kept pace. These thresholds were last set maybe about 20 years ago. Since they've been adjusted, and I believe that it's time to make the necessary adjustments so that we can provide relief to those that are earning bare minimum. And yeah, I mean, I urge a yes vote. I urge you to support this bill so that we can make the necessary adjustments. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Representative Cepeda Freitas. I want to also speak in favor of this amendment. In the tax book that we all use when we prepare our Pennsylvania taxes, there's a section that describes the tax forgiveness. I believe it goes from page 37 to page 40 in your tax book. So for working families, this is an opportunity where the first $6,500 of income is not taxed in Pennsylvania. $6,500 for one taxpayer, $6,500 for the spouse, and then $9,500 if there's a dependent. As Representative Cepeda Freitas has said, first of all, this tax forgiveness provision goes back, I believe, to the 1970s, when the tax code, when the income tax was first established in Pennsylvania. The last time that number was adjusted was 2003, so 21 years ago, and certainly inflation has changed since the year 2003. So it's been at $6,500 and $9,500 for the dependents since that year. This proposal would increase that to $10,000. We did ask the Department of Revenue for a couple of alternatives. We asked for $10,000. We asked for $12,000. The amendment asks for the $10,000. And in the packet of information you have received, we have the Department of Revenue scoring for how this would affect just the COLA, the bill in chief, and how it would affect with a $10,000 base and then the COLA. And as you can see, there are 2 pages, one to describe the bill in chief, one to describe what's happening under current law and what would happen under this amendment. So if we would adopt this amendment starting in tax year 2025, have $10,000 for a single person, $20,000 for a joint return, and leave the dependents at $9,500, that would impact 289,000 additional Pennsylvanians. And also some who currently qualify for tax forgiveness would get additional relief, and that would be 184,000 people. So together, about 500,000 people would benefit if we would adopt this amendment with the $10,000 threshold. We did pass another bill last year, as you recall, in our committee, which would be an earned income tax credit for low-income working families. That bill has advanced out of the committee. It advanced out of the full House with a bipartisan vote of 121 votes, and that bill is over in the Senate to have an earned income tax credit for for working families. This would be an alternative to put it right in the tax book to change the $6,500 to $10,000 for the first time in 21 years. Thank you. I want to give the opportunity to any other member of the committee to talk or ask questions. Chair Greiner.
Yeah, I conceptually, for a second, talk on the bill later. Conceptually, I thought the bill was not a bad idea with the cost of living. I think it should be one or the other, not both, with cost of living and also increasing. That's just, so I'm going to be a no on the amendment, likely no on the bill too, but I'll comment on the bill afterwards because I have, just because of my background as a CPA, I have some more information and maybe I can work with the maker of the bill to try to make it what I would say even better, but I can explain that. But I'm just saying I like the bill, but I thought the amendment made it too rich, and I plan to be a no on that. And, well, then I'll talk on the bill after that.
Thank you, Chair Greiner. Does any other member of the committee want to discuss the amendment? Cepeda Freitas? Seeing none, I note for the record that Representative Scott is present. I'd now like to have a roll call on the Cepeda-Freitas amendment. Amendment 4195. 4915. I did get the 10,000 right.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Cepeda-Freitas,
Yes.
Deloso, Fiedler, Frail,
Yes.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Kenyatta,
Yes by designation.
McNeil, Mursky, Rab, Scott, Scott,
On the Cepeda-Freitas amendment,
Smith Waddell,
yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster, Chairman Griner,
No.
Bernstein,
No by designation.
Brown, Fritz,
No.
Jones,
No.
Kephart, Kutz,
No.
Mako,
No by designation.
McCurry,
No by designation.
Rader, Rossi.
14 votes in favor, 11 votes opposed. The amendment is adopted. Now we'll move to discussion of the bill 1742 as amended.
I do.
Chair Griner.
Yeah, there's one thing that I'd like to do to maybe work with the maker of the bill. I've had CPAs reach out to me as well as others, and I actually, as a tax preparer, I know that we think we're helping lower income people out, which we are, but we're also helping some of the very wealthy, whether you know that or not. Because in the calculation of eligibility income for special forgiveness, it doesn't exclude pensions and Social Security. So this is hard to believe, but we probably have members that served in the House of Representatives who probably have tax forgiveness here in Pennsylvania and have, had a defined benefit plan all those years. Depending on how they did their tax planning, they can actually get around that. I think I'd like to see us be laser focused on those who really need it. In my opinion, like I said, you could even talk to the CPAs on this. It's hard to explain until you sit down and maybe look at what I'm saying. Maybe we could sit down and give an example. But I had a multimillionaire who actually paid no state income tax the other year, just because his income was mainly all retirement income and no dividend and no other income. And I don't think that's what the law was meant to do. And so I just want to bring that, to your attention. I think because of the dynamic here, likely pass. I am going to be a no, but I do think just because I think we need as it stands, I think we can improve it, and just wanted to bring that to your attention. So I thank you for at least hearing me out on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair Griner, and I know you've raised that point before. I want to give the opportunity for other members of the committee to ask a question or speak on the bill. I also have a comment on the bill. I appreciate what Chair Griner said, that the tax forgiveness provisions apply to all taxpayers. That might include seniors who have the Social Security and the pension is non-taxable, but investment income would be subject to this. It also includes low-income workers, in some cases minimum wage earners, and in many cases it includes single parents or working families. The tax booklet, I referenced it earlier on page 39 when you do your taxes in April. There's a chart which shows how the existing law applies. We would show that a single parent making $6,500, that amount would be forgiven. No taxes paid on that first $6,500. But what if that single parent had 3 kids? In that case, it would be $6,500 by plus the 3 dependents, and that would be up to $35,000. That would be non-taxable with the current law that has an exemption for dependents. That number has not been adjusted since 2003. So by raising the $6,500 to $10,000, we're basically raising the single taxpayer, the two-person household, and also the chart that shows the dependents, raising that level by $3,500 in a modest. I believe that's a modest proposal to help working families, and also an important proposal that after 21 years we should make sure these our tax provisions keep up with the cost of living. So those are my remarks. Any other remarks from members? I'd like to have a roll call vote on House Bill 1742 as amended.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes?
Cepeda Freites,
Yes.
Deloso, Fiedler, Frail, Gallagher, Kenyatta,
Yes by designation?
McNeil, Mursky, Rab, Scott,
Yes.
Smith Waddell,
Yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster.
Yes.
Chairman Griner,
No.
Bernstein,
No by designation.
Brown, Fritz, Jones,
No.
Kephart, Kutz,
No.
Mako,
No by designation.
McCreary.
Yes by designation.
Yes. Raider, Rossi.
Thank you. 15 votes in favor, 10 votes opposed. House Bill 1742 is reported from the Finance Committee as amended. Next, before the committee, we have House Bill 2226, sponsored by Representative Friel, concerning an exchange program for net operating losses in Pennsylvania. I'd like to start by asking if there's a motion to bring this bill forward. Representative Rabb, seconded by Representative Gallagher. And I'd like Shannon Snell, our research analyst, to give a description of the bill.
House Bill 2226 establishes a net operating loss exchange program. It allows new or expanding technology businesses and biotechnology businesses in Pennsylvania who pay the corporate net income tax and who have accrued net losses to be selling taxpayers. And then it allows corporate net income taxpayers that are profitable to be purchasing taxpayers. And basically sets up a program by which the newer expanding technology or biotechnology business will receive private financial assistance in exchange for the transfer of tax benefits. And the private financial assistance will be in the amount of at least 80% of the tax benefit being transferred. Let's see. And selling taxpayers are able to sell up to $20 million in tax benefits, and purchasing taxpayers are able to purchase up to $100 million in tax benefits per taxable year. And if there is a situation where the demand for the tax benefits by the purchasing taxpayer exceeds the supply, the Department of Revenue is able to distribute those benefits on a pro rata basis, so we don't have one purchasing taxpayer getting that entire $100 million.
Thank you. We have a number of amendments before the committee. You have 8 amendments listed. I want to announce that 3 of them were received after our deadline for amendments. We have a deadline that 1 o'clock the day before, an amendment must be in print, and by 4 o'clock the day before, the amendment must be distributed to all 25 members of the committee. So because of that, I'm ruling the 3 amendments, 4932, 4933, and 4943, late filed, so not before the committee today. I want to call on, the next amendment is Representative Kephart. We're going in numerical order. Representative Kephart has Amendment 48. I should have a motion to bring up the bill. I had Representative Rabb and Gallagher bring up the bill. Together with the Kephart amendment, I need a motion to bring up the Kephart amendment. Representative Jones.
Am I allowed to challenge your decision, Mr. Chair, on the late filed? And may I explain why?
Yes, you are allowed to challenge the ruling. The committee rules, we would need a 2/3 vote of the members to suspend the committee rules. If you'd like to make that motion, that's in order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make that motion. And just, so technically, the ruling is correct, but it's more of the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. The amendments were filed and stamped by LRB at, I believe, 12:20 yesterday before the 1 p.m. deadline that we've always historically adhered to. The exact language of the amendments was submitted to the committee before 1 o'clock, well before the 4 o'clock deadline. So we're down. LRB, for whatever reason, didn't turn them around until this morning, but the language has been available. The amendments were submitted and stamped. I guess they're not technically in LRB format, but that's the epitome of a technicality.
Okay.
Lastly, I think the amendments are all very reasonable. I think they would impact our votes. Certainly if certain ones are adopted, we could get to a yes. Without them, I'm confident myself and others will be a no. One of them is even taken from a bill that Rep. Schweier and myself introduced on a bipartisan basis a few years back. So I would like to at least, I see no harm in considering the amendments. If you don't want to vote for them, we can vote them down. That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Jones. I will ask for a vote to sustain the ruling of the chair. On the House floor, when the amendment deadline happens, we can have a certificate stating the intent of the amendment to come. But on the committees, the rule actually states the actual amendment has to be prepared by that 1 o'clock deadline for the 2 chairs to share. And by 4 o'clock, all 25 members of the committee have to see it. So I'm going to ask to sustain the ruling. I do want to mention to Representative Jones, you would have the opportunity to offer those amendments on the House floor should this bill advance out of committee. Anybody else want to speak on the motion to sustain the ruling of the chair?
Mr. Chair, I'll withdraw because we're going to lose with your, I'll defer to your decision. I can withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
The motion has been withdrawn. I'm now on the Kephart amendment, which is Amendment 4833. Do we have a motion to bring forward? Moved by Representative Kephart. Second by Representative Griner. I call on I'd ask Shannon Snell, our research analyst, to give a description of Amendment 4833.
A04833 allows a net operating loss deduction under certain circumstances for businesses that pay the personal income tax.
Representative Kephart, do you want to describe your amendment? Speak on your amendment?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment merely expands the net operating losses to small businesses in Pennsylvania. I think it's a great amendment myself, but it would allow our startups, for instance, to carry their losses forward as they go. It's great for investment here in Pennsylvania. We had a similar bill. I had an amendment on the House floor here a while back about, it was for, C Corps, I'll call them. It passed with 160 votes. I would hope that was overwhelmingly bipartisan. And this amendment would merely make it apply to small businesses. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Kephart. I will ask for a no vote on the Kephart amendment today. We have a bill before us that's targeted to startup businesses in the early years that are involved in technology or biotech or high-tech endeavors. I would say this kind of proposal would broaden the scope to, and also I want to say that historically the net operating loss provision has applied to corporate net income tax, CNIT. Expanding it to another tax in Pennsylvania, the personal income tax, would expand the scope of the existing net operating losses. And also, I know in the PIT there are 8 classes of income. I believe this applies to one of the 8 classes. So because this expands the scope of this targeted bill that's before us today, I would respectfully ask for a no vote on the Kephart amendment. But once again, this could be offered at a later time as well. Representative Greiner?
Yeah, I think it's a great amendment. I'm very supportive. I think the bill, which we can talk about later, I've got an issue with it being so narrow in scope as it is. I think we need to expand the NOL for all businesses. We shouldn't just be focusing on one business. And there's going to be some other amendments as well. So I'm going to ask my colleagues to vote yes on the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Does any other member wish to speak on the Kephart amendment? Seeing none, could I ask Lori Smith, our legislative assistant, to call the roll?
Chairman Samuelson?
I was clear. Respectfully, no.
Cepeda Freites?
No.
Deloso? Fiedler?
No by designation.
Sorry. Frail?
No.
Gallagher? Kenyatta?
No by designation.
McNeil? Mursky? Rab? Scott? Smith Waddell?
No by designation.
Waxman? Webster?
No.
Chairman Greiner?
Yes.
Bernstein?
Yes by designation.
Brown?
Yes by designation.
Fritz? Jones? Kephart? Kutz? Mako?
Yes by designation.
McCurry?
Yes by designation.
Rader? And Leslie? Rossi?
11 votes in favor, 14 votes opposed. The amendment fails. Now I have next amendment is Representative Kephart, Amendment 4845. Do I have a motion to bring that amendment forward?
Yep.
Representative Kephart, seconded by Representative Kutz. I ask Shannon Snell to give a description of the Kephart amendment.
A04845 increases the total net loss deduction that a corporate taxpayer may claim per taxable year. Under current law, it can be up to 40% of taxable income, and this would increase it to 100% of taxable income.
Representative Kephart, would you like to speak on your amendment?
Yeah, I will briefly. Thank you, Chairman. This amendment would apply to the corporate net income tax that you just mentioned. This vote did happen on the House floor with 166 yes votes, including some members of this committee. This is big for investment in Pennsylvania. Huge priority here for businesses in Pennsylvania. I mean, I don't know, back home, talking about this recently at a chamber event, after I explained what it is, people were very excited about that. So I would ask for a yes vote on this amendment. Like I said, this is great for business investment in Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kephart. I would like to ask for a no vote on the Kephart amendment for a couple of reasons. One, we are not negotiating the whole budget today. We're dealing with an amendment that a bill that talks about a targeted way that the net operating loss provisions of our tax code could apply to startup businesses, to high-tech businesses, to biotech businesses. So the scope of the bill in chief is much narrower. I know this is a proposal that has been advanced by the House Republican leadership, and I know we're in budget season, so I do understand that there will be a discussion of the larger issue of the net operating loss. But for this bill, as I said, this is not the whole budget, this is this provision. Secondly, we did have some scoring last year on a provision to go from 40% to 80%. And there was a fiscal note by the Department of Revenue last summer, and it was about it started at 173 million in the first year, and it would go up to 328 million in the fourth year. Now, that was based on 80%. I do not have scoring for 100%. And the concept of, I do understand the concept that right now a business can apply an operating loss up to 40% of their taxable income. But we don't have a provision in Pennsylvania where a business can apply it to their entire taxable income. If that would happen, and a business would apply a loss to 100% of their taxable income, then their taxable income would be zero, and they'd pay zero tax that year. So I realize this is a discussion in the budget context. I do note that the last couple of times we raised the net operating loss provisions, we did it in a fashion where we went from 25% to 30 to 30% to 35 to 40, and it was just about 6 years ago we went to 40. The proposal before us would go from 40 to 100 all at once. So I would respectfully ask for a no vote. And I do open it up if anybody else would like to speak. Chair Greiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I guess to no surprise, I think it's a good amendment, and probably shouldn't bring this up, but the special forgiveness bill was in the hundreds of millions too. I'm just giving a heads up that there's a cost to that, significant cost there too. Just making a comment. So but I do think overall, kind of segueing or saying in line with my the last amendment, I think we need to help all businesses here in Pennsylvania and just not be fixated on one group. So thank you.
Thank you. And I do expect a significant negotiation between the House and Senate leaders on many of the provisions that we consider here in the House Finance Committee. Anybody else on the committee would like to comment on the Kephart amendment? Seeing none, I would call Lori Smith. I'll call on Lori Smith to have a roll call vote.
Chairman Samuelson,
No.
Cepeda Freites,
No.
Fiedler,
No by designation.
I'm sorry, Deloso, I'm sorry, Frail,
No.
Gallagher, Kenyatta,
No by designation.
McNeil, Mirsky, Rab, Scott, Waddell,
No by designation.
Waxman, Webster.
No.
Chairman Greiner,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes by designation.
Brown,
Yes by designation.
Fritz, Jones,
Yes.
Kephart,
Yes.
Kutz, Mako,
Yes by designation.
McCurry,
Yes by designation.
Rader, and Rossi.
11 votes in favor, 14 votes opposed. The amendment fails. Next of the amendments, we have one amendment by Representative Rabb, Amendment 4920. Are you offering that one or waiting till the later amendment?
I would like to withdraw that amendment.
Okay. Next, we'll go to Amendment 4931, Representative Friel. Do I have a motion to bring forward Representative Friel's amendment? Made by Representative Gallagher, seconded by Cepeda Freitas. Representative Cepeda Freitas. Can I ask Shannon Snell to give a description of the bill?
A04931 makes some technical changes to the bill, just to make sure that it does what the intent for it is to do, as far as the numbers and whether we're referring to the amount of losses accrued or the value of those losses. When you apply the current corporate net income tax rate to those, it just clarifies those in a couple places throughout the bill. And it also provides that the amount of private financial assistance offered by the purchasing taxpayers in exchange for the tax benefit must be at least 80% of the value of the tax benefit. The current language says exactly 80%. So this would be 80% and up. The market would dictate that.
Thank you, Shannon. The prime sponsor of the amendment, Representative Friel, would you like to speak on the amendment?
Sure, thank you, Chairman. As we said, the original intent and original language of the bill was to make this a market-driven instrument with a floor of 80%. So this just clarifies that. And then just as folks were asking and commented back on the value of those tax credits to shield from corporate net income tax, we were just making sure that it was clearer the intent of the bill, and that's all this amendment does. So I ask for an affirmative vote.
Thank you, Representative Friel. Does anybody else have comments on the amendment? Representative Griner, Chair Griner.
Yes, thank you. The bill as written, I know we had talked about this before, wasn't, as the maker said, wasn't quite correct. And this does, it cleans it up. And for that reason, I mean, it cleans the bill up. So for that reason, I'll be a yes on this amendment.
Thank you. Any other members seeking to comment on the amendment? Are there any negative votes on the Friel amendment? The amendment passes unanimously. Next, we have Amendment 4942 filed by Representative Rabb. Do I have a motion to bring forward the Rabb amendment? Representative Rabb, seconded by Representative Waxman. Shannon Snell will provide a description of the amendment.
This adds an additional option by which a corporation may qualify as a technology business and therefore would be eligible to sell the tax benefits. And under the new options, the requirements would be majority owned by a Pennsylvania resident who resides in a geographic area in which there are trigger projects with permits, authorizations, or approvals analyzed by the Department of Environmental Protection, is affiliated with any public state-related institution or other entity that has received state funding within the prior 2 fiscal years, and the institution would have to provide technology-related program or initiatives. And finally, that the business has net losses related to environmental remediation, environmental resiliency, energy efficiency, energy conservation, or solar, wind, or geothermal energy production. This does not affect the existing requirements to qualify as a technology business. This simply adds one additional option.
Thank you. Representative Rabb, would you like to speak on your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment just seeks to deepen this legislation instead of expanding it beyond the original scope of the maker's desire around this bill, making sure that there are business owners in impacted communities that can benefit from this in meaningful ways. And so that is the intent of this amendment.
Thank you. I know Representative Fritz would like to comment on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, but not on the amendment. I will speak on the bill. Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak on the Rabb amendment? Representative Griner.
Yeah, I'm going to be a no on this amendment. It goes back to what I said. I think, once again, we're just trying to do a carve out. I know he used maybe the word deepen, but it expands it for one, a certain group. And I'm going to ask my Republican colleagues and all colleagues to vote no. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to speak on the RAB amendment? Could I ask for a roll call vote on the RAB amendment number 4942?
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Sapita Freites,
Yes.
Deloso, Fiedler,
Yes by designation?
Frail,
Yes.
Gallagher, Kenyatta,
Yes by designation?
McNeil, Mursky, Rab, Scott, Waddell,
Yes by designation?
Waxman, Webster.
Yes.
Chairman Griner,
No.
Bernstein,
No by designation.
Brown,
No by designation.
Fritz, Jones,
No.
Kephart, Kutz, Mako,
No by designation.
McCurry,
No by designation.
Raider. I can't hear you. Raider. Rossi.
Thank you. 14 votes in favor, 11 opposed. The amendment passes. Now before us is House Bill 2226, sponsored by Representative Friel, as amended today. On House Bill 2226 as amended, would Representative Friel like to speak? I would note for the record, we had a hearing on this bill last week, and we had testimony from a coalition of business leaders in southeastern Pennsylvania and testimony from individual CEOs of startup companies on how this bill would impact them. Representative Friel.
Thank you, Chairman, and I thank all the members of the committee for considering House Bill 2226. I'm a big believer in Pennsylvania's small businesses, and that we still are one of the most resource-rich states in the country, and that we can create an environment and a culture here to foster innovation out of our universities and to build small businesses and see them stay here. The intent of this bill is the fact that there are businesses that the technology and some of the businesses who start here in Pennsylvania do not, unfortunately, stay in Pennsylvania. And part of that is the fact that we're chasing dollars outside the state, and that there's more favorable treatment outside the state. And this bill is narrow on purpose, because it seeks to look at industries that can be significant benefits to create high-paying jobs, that can bring technology out of our universities, that can advance and build strong businesses here in Pennsylvania. And it's incrementalism. I believe, we can try to get everything all at once and fail, or we can chip away at this piece by piece. And I think this bill advances and puts us forward in these small businesses in such a way that Pennsylvania looks like an attractive place to stay, grow, and invest, because it's a non-dilutive way to raise capital. To my colleagues on the right with the amendments, I just want to offer that I will look forward to working with any one of you to improve this bill. I don't want perfect to get in the way of the good, but I think, I am a fan of small businesses. I want to see us be successful here in Pennsylvania and find a path forward where we can get to yes on the House floor. So I look and invite any one of you to talk to myself, and I'm happy to entertain these, anything we can do to improve the bill, by all means. I also just want to point out on the bigger NOL discussion, last year I was the sponsor of the bill on our side to go to 80%. So I am I do believe, in the bigger path and the bigger pitch. However, this bill isn't that. This isn't the device for that. I think this bill is narrow in scope. It's incrementally good for the businesses. It's good for small businesses, and we need something like this to attract and keep dollars here in Pennsylvania because we're losing them today. So thank you all, and I ask for an affirmative vote.
Would anyone like to speak on House Bill 2226 as amended? We have Representative Fritz and then Representative Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is in my eyes, a pro-business bill, and it pains me a little bit to be less than receptive. But I think it just goes to show that sometimes moving legislation is messy. And the grievances that were aired today and are impacting the vote, it's a reality in Harrisburg. But I do want to mention to my good colleague from the 26th Legislative District that I do believe there is a path for this bill, and we'll gladly accept that olive branch, and hopefully we can work together in order to get this to a successful yes vote on the House floor. Just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Fritz, Representative Jones, and then Representative Webster.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion to lay the bill on the table till the next session week so we can take Representative Friel's offer up and work over it the next couple of weeks, get a couple good amendments, and get something we can all vote on?
Girl.
Just getting the technical wording of the motion. I will allow the vote. What if I said the next meeting is in half an hour? That was a joke.
If the amendments are timely filed, that will work.
Touche. Do I understand the motion to be to lay the bill on the table until the next voting meeting of the House Finance Committee?
Yes, sir.
Motion has been made, seconded. Seconded by Representative DeLoso. Would you like to speak on your motion, Representative Jones?
No, I'll speak on.
Okay.
Well, I'll speak now.
Motion has been made and
You want me to
seconded.
speak? I'll speak now. I think very highly of the chairman, so and I don't like to see a grown man whine or fuss, so I'm going to try not to do that. But I've broken ranks on this committee and voted yes on one or two bills in committee and on the floor. I've spoke positively on a couple of these offerings, including this bill, much to the chagrin of some of my Republican colleagues. I now file 3 very legitimate amendments, 2 of which could get many, maybe all of us to a yes. And they're ruled out of order on a technicality. And I guess I'm just disappointed is what I am. I'm really disappointed. So can I work with these with the rep on some floor amendments? Maybe. And maybe we'll just let it pass on partisan lines and die in the Senate because, I'm trying to collaborate and work. I mean, we could have, I think, potentially a unanimous vote on a bill. I could help lobby the Senate. We could get a lot of Republican votes on the floor. I'd even be willing to help lobby some of my colleagues in the Senate. And instead, we're going to push forward on a technicality that we couldn't even consider a couple of extremely reasonable and legitimate amendments that fall within the context of the bill. So I'm going to try one more time and say maybe we lay it on the table. I don't think there's a huge push on time. Come back to it in a couple weeks. I'll work with Rep. Friel in the interim. I'm cautiously optimistic we'll come back with a better bill that can get some bipartisan support. So I'm not being difficult. I'm offering up the motion in a true spirit of collaboration so we can get a better bill with bipartisan support. So I don't know what else to, that's the spirit of my motion, Mr. Chair, and I hope you'll support it.
Thank you, Representative Jones. I respectfully ask for a no vote on the motion to postpone House Bill 2226 till the next meeting. I would point out that when the bill was introduced in April 17th, we had a public hearing, an extensive public hearing on this bill last Wednesday, 6 days ago, and also we had amendments filed to the bill. So I believe we're ready to vote on this bill after discussing the final bill as amended. And so I would ask for a no vote on the motion to postpone. Would anyone else like to speak on the motion? Seeing no members seeking to speak, I will call for a roll call vote on the motion to postpone House Bill 2226 till the next meeting.
Chairman Samuelson,
No?
Cepeda Freites,
No.
Deloso, Fiedler,
No by designation?
Frail,
No.
Gallagher, Kenyatta,
No by designation?
McNeil, Mursky, Rabb, Scott,
No.
Smith Waddell,
No by designation?
Waxman, Webster,
No.
Chairman Griner,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes by designation.
Brown,
Yes by designation.
Fritz, Jones,
Yes.
Kephart,
Yes.
Kutz, Mako,
Yes by designation.
McCurry,
Yes by designation.
Rader, and Rossi.
Thank you. 14 votes opposed, 11 votes in favor. The motion to postpone is not successful. Moving back to final passage of House Bill 2226 as amended. Would anyone else like to speak on the bill as amended? Representative Webster, I apologize. Representative Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this is a long committee hearing, meeting, and I'll try to be brief. I was tempted to make a couple of comments during the motion to table, and I think my comments generally apply both ways. This is a really powerful, direct bill focused on startup costs and startup companies, and I think it does us a justice to maintain some discipline and keep it that way, keep it focused right where it is. And I'll think back to some of the economic dynamics that occur when innovative startup businesses, particularly in the technology fields that occur across the Commonwealth, in life sciences, in chemistry, and our pharmaceutical companies, and a lot of different places where a startup is going to generate interest in a technology that impacts other startups, and it goes in both directions. That I think it's important that we stay focused on that part of it, especially because the impact of what Rep. Friel has offered here will allow those companies to go from very small startups to mid-size, on the path towards becoming a public company, becoming successful, and at a certain stage that this enables, that's when a company makes a decision about where they're going to locate for the next step. And that's part of what gives them roots in Pennsylvania to stay here. And we need to just be focused on that impact. So thank you for the moment to speak.
Thank you, Representative Webster. Any other comments on House Bill 2226 as amended? Representative Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So real quickly, the bill doesn't support startups. It supports certain startups. only in certain fields. Technology is great. I support that. But there's great food startups. There's great service industry startups. There's great engineering startups. There's great manufacturing startups, all kinds of great startups. So if we were to broaden it to those, as I was hoping we could do, and there's also startups that lost money last year and the year before that have already committed to Pennsylvania. I don't see why we wouldn't help those. I think we could help. We could help any of the businesses that find themselves in a situation, not just those that start up in the coming year, because many of them, their survival might depend on this. So if we had a couple reasonable improvements to the bill like that, I could be a yes, but we don't, so I'll be a no. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Jones. Any other comments on the bill? Representative Rabb?
There's a common narrative that we don't pick winners and losers. We do, all the time. We may not have an appetite to spend public dollars on things because we want to keep government small. We want to reduce folks' tax liability and so forth. But sometimes it makes sense to invest in the businesses that can have positive impacts in and for our Commonwealth. And a lot of those businesses that are startups are technology-based firms that can create good, sustainable jobs in our Commonwealth. We are blessed to have institutions that support this work, and we have brain drain. We're having our workforce and folks who want to do good things pulled into other states because we have not created the environment to support them. And I'm particularly interested in those businesses that have a disproportionate impact on communities that could benefit the most from technologies because they have been impacted by predatory business models. So we do choose winners and losers. We can't help everyone all the time. And frankly, when we do have large, bold pieces of legislation that seek to help millions of folks, sometimes I don't get the support. I don't hear the support on the House floor for those expansive bills. So it's a bit ironic to hear a critique that something that is focused on helping a sector of the business community that can create good jobs in our Commonwealth, this should be supported on a bipartisan basis because not all sectors are created equal. Should we provide incentives to help typewriter manufacturers or fax machine manufacturers? I don't think so. I think we can choose using our good judgment and what the data reveal about the types of businesses that could have the most meaningful and broadest impact, not just on their own bottom line and their own employees, but whole communities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Rabb. Any other comments on House Bill 2226? Representative Rabb, Representative Friel.
So, and we'll get out of here. I just want to say this. I think this bill is seeking to do a small good thing to try to keep and then foster and create a climate to say Pennsylvania is an attractive place. We know that some of these businesses are easy to move. You can set up anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country. You can put employees anywhere in the world, anywhere in this country. But this bill requires those employees be here in Pennsylvania. And I think the best way to successful big pieces of legislation and to expand it is success. And if we have success on a smaller piece of legislation and we use that the model to expand it to the next thing and to the next thing, I hope that this bill passes in some form and we have an environment in Pennsylvania that says to businesses, please come here and invest, because we can then expand. Once we demonstrate it's successful, I think it's the easiest way to expand. And I'll just wrap up by saying my invitation to improve this bill and work on this for the floor to amend it is open, and I look forward to meeting with anybody who is interested in that. But I just hope we don't allow the perfect to get in the way of the good. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate all the input on House Bill 2226. I'd like to ask Lori Smith, our senior committee legislative assistant, to call the roll on House Bill 2226 as amended.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Tapita Freites,
See.
Deloso, Fiedler,
Yes by designation.
Frail,
Yes.
Gallagher, Kenyatta,
Yes by designation.
McNeil, Mursky, Rab, Scott,
Yes.
Ishmael Wade,
Yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Griner,
No.
Bernstein,
No by designation.
Brown,
No by designation.
Fritz, Jones, Kephart, Kutz,
No.
Mako,
No by designation.
McCurry,
No by designation.
Rader, and Rossi.
14 votes in favor, 11 votes opposed. House Bill 2226 is reported from the Finance Committee as amended. Now, before the Finance Committee, we have House Bill 2394, sponsored by Representative Scott and myself. Do I have a motion to bring forward House Bill 2394? Moved by Representative Gallagher. Seconded by Representative McNeil. Can I ask Shannon Snell, our research analyst, to give a description of House Bill 2394?
House Bill 2394 prohibits collection of credit and debit card interchange fees on the sales tax portion of retail transactions. And basically, the amount of sales and use tax calculated as a percentage of the total amount of an electronic payment transaction must be excluded from the amount on which an interchange fee is charged to a merchant or seller. And there are two options under the bill on how that can occur. The first option is that the payment card network can deduct the amount of the sales tax from the calculation of the interchange fee charged with relation to a particular transaction at the time that that transaction occurs. And the second option is to go back and later provide the merchant or seller with a refund for the amount of the interchange fee proportionate to the amount attributable to the sales tax. And another note is that if a merchant or seller cannot capture and transmit the sales tax amount to the payment card network as data at the time of the transaction, it can submit proof of that at a later time as well.
Thank you, Shannon. Now I'd like to call on the sponsor of the bill, Representative Scott, for remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, and the members of this committee know, we've held a hearing on this concept. We've had a chance to review this legislation, and all of my colleagues on this committee, I'm sure by now, have been visited by a few stakeholders on this subject. Just want to clear up a few myths on this legislation. This legislation does not eliminate interchange fees. It reduces it minimally, and it only pertains to the sales tax. People comparing it to other states and where they're using it to do for tip wages so that, you know, tip wages aren't also included, although I agree with that concept. This legislation does not do that. To put it simply, what this bill does is when you go to the store and you buy something for $1, we all know that the total is going to be $1.06. So what we're saying is that 6 cents, we don't want to charge the interchange fee for. But the dollar you can keep. I'm looking to provide relief to some of these small businesses and these interchange fees that they pay. I went to the store the other day to get some gas. One price for cash, another price for credit. I asked the owner of the gas station why the increase, the interchange fees. Looking to provide a little bit of relief to small businesses that are paying these interchange fees. This is a complicated issue. I recognize that. People have had lots of thoughts and opinions. I've taken every meeting that has been requested. I just checked my inbox prior to you calling on me. I've yet to see any additional amendments. But this is the second part of the beginning of this process. Looking forward to continue to working on it to strengthen this bill for the better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Scott. I will offer the opportunity for other members to speak. I also want to speak on, as a co-prime sponsor of this legislation, House Bill 2394. As you heard, we did have a hearing on interchange fees as it relates to the Pennsylvania sales tax back on December 6th, about 6 months ago. And we had some testimony from the Electronic Payments Coalition. We had testimony from a coalition of merchants. We had testimony from Sheetz, a Pennsylvania-based business. We also have received feedback. I know you've received all of these letters by email, but we did, I think, receive eight letters from either individual stakeholders or coalitions of stakeholders. I have copies of all 8 of the correspondences that we have received. If any of the committee members have not, let me make sure that you have those. I do want to speak on the bill that's before us. As Representative Scott said, we're talking about the interchange fee on the sales tax portion of a transaction. So if on a $100 purchase that costs $106 in Pennsylvania because of the 6% sales tax, if the interchange fee, I do know they range from 2.5% to 4% depending on the financial institution, depending on the network. Let's just say for 3% on average. If there's a 3% interchange fee, that merchant's paying 3% or $3 on the first 100, and they're also paying 3% or 18 cents on the $6 that's collected by the merchant and turned over to the state. Collected by the merchant by law, we require merchants to collect the sales tax and remit them to the state. So they don't get to keep that 6%. The bill says that the interchange fee could not be applied to that amount. This bill does not go further than that. I know there's been a lot of discussion this week with stakeholders and with committee members about what just happened in Illinois a few weeks ago. That bill in Illinois does include tipped wages. This bill does not. It's just about the sales tax that the merchants are required to collect and remit to Pennsylvania. I know in terms of fees and credit card fees, and if you look at the big context here in the United States, there's about $105 billion of credit card interest, in addition to about $25 billion of credit card fees that are paid by individual credit card holders. You know, if you divide that by all 200 million credit card holders, that's about $125 for each one of us that has a credit card. I believe we had the testimony back in December that the swipe fees, which are paid for by the merchants, about $78 billion collectively. So that's the big picture. As Representative Scott said, sometimes those interchange fees are passed on to the consumers. More and more, you do see the separate price for cash or credit. More and more, you'll pay for something with your card, and there'll be a convenience fee, which equals the 3% interchange fee. So the merchant is passing it back to the consumers. Our bill seeks to help merchants by at least addressing that issue, the interchange fee on the sales tax. Let me refer to some of the testimony we had back in December. Sheetz talked about having businesses in 6 states, a very successful business in Pennsylvania. The credit card fees, the interchange fees they pay are about $187 million around the country, But if they narrow it down to just Pennsylvania, about 78.2 million of credit card swipe fees, interchange fees that's paid for by Sheetz. They testified in favor of the bill. They said if they look at what portion of that is related to the sales tax, that was 1.3 million. 1.3 million where they pay a swipe fee to collect the Pennsylvania sales tax. They remit the sales tax to Pennsylvania, and what happens to the 1.3 million? It's absorbed by the company, by Sheetz. For small business owners, they also have to absorb that portion. So our bill seeks to address that, just that portion. One quote that they had at the hearing: we pay swipe fees when they're talking about the interchange fees on the credit card. I'm sorry, interchange fees on the sales tax. We pay swipe fees on funds we do not keep. We provide a service to the state by collecting taxes, but the swipe fee system penalizes us for performing that service. So we've heard from merchants that seek this would provide some relief. We offer this bill for consideration today. I'd like to call on any other members who have comments. Representative Gallagher.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate it. And I want to thank Representative Scott and Chairman Samuelson for bringing this bill up. The reason I'm speaking, and I will be quick because I know we have to be on the floor soon. I am a former small business owner. And in the ever-growing world where credit cards are being the dominant exchange of payment over the last 25 years, when you're a small business in the restaurant industry or the service industry, our margins are very, very thin. And dealing with some of these swipe fees, these interchange fees, can become very burdensome on small businesses. So I want to thank everybody here that's going to be supporting this. I'm encouraging everybody to a yes vote on this, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative Gallagher. Would any other members like to speak on House Bill 2394? Representative Rossi and Chair Greiner. Representative Rossi?
This bill concerns me because of privacy issues. I feel like more people would possibly use the credit card. It helps track the consumer more, and for that reason, I'm going to be a no.
Thank you, Representative Rossi.
Just one thing. I'll be the last speaker. Just defer, because we got to get on the floor anyway. Just some thoughts on this. You know, we were asking for language on this bill and what was going on for quite a while. Just so everybody knows, we didn't see language on this bill to 5 o'clock on Monday night. So it's, you know, so we're scrambling to try to take a look at things. I will say, and rightfully so, and Rep. Scott's right, we have a lot of people that have come into our office. A lot of people have reached out to me. Certainly, I have a lot of concerns. I appreciate my colleagues' comments about being a small businessman, but I think there could be even greater implications for some of the smaller people. Representative Adams testified at the last hearing, too, about how this adversely affects small banks if we go ahead and pass this legislation. He of course, isn't here with us anymore. So I think because of those reasons, and because personally, I think the hearing should have included a few more stakeholders. I had actually at the time suggested maybe we have another one to include the bankers and maybe the MasterCards and Visas, and I know that didn't happen. But that's, I just think under the circumstances, I know even now in Illinois, you're starting to hear they passed it. It was the first time in 20 years a bill like this got passed, and now even Chicago Tribune and some others I know have some concerns. Now, we might not be mixing apples with their legislation with ours, but nonetheless, as Representative Scott said, it's a complex issue, and I think I just don't think at this time this is the appropriate bill, and I think I would ask my colleagues for a no vote.
Thank you, Chair Greiner. If there are no other comments, I will ask the clerk. I will ask our senior committee legislative assistant, Lori Smith, to call the roll on House Bill 2394.
Chairman Samuelson?
Yes.
Peter Freites?
Yes by designation.
Deloso? Fiedler?
Yes by designation.
Frail? Gallagher? Kenyatta?
Yes by designation.
McNeil, Mursky, Grab,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
Yes.
Waddell,
Yes by designation.
Waxman,
Yes.
Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Griner,
No.
Bernstein,
No by designation.
Brown,
No by designation.
Fritz, Jones, Kephart, Kutz, Mako,
No by designation.
McCurry,
No by designation.
Rader, Rossi.
14 votes in favor, 11 votes opposed. House Bill 2394 is reported from the Finance Committee as committed. With no other business before the committee today, this meeting is adjourned.